Hello and welcome back to The Power of Now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment with Gilda and Barbara. Today we're doing a book study on A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, written by Eckhart Tolle, and we hope you have your copy so that you can follow along. Today we are on Chapter 10, Section 10, A New Earth, Enthusiasm. My name's Barbara Wainwright, and I'm here with Gilda Simonet. Welcome, Gilda.
Thank you.
Enthusiasm. Then there is another way of creative manifestation that may come to those who remain true to their inner purpose of awakening. Suddenly, one day, they know what their outer purpose is. They have a great vision, a goal, and from then on, they work toward implementing that goal. Their goal or vision is usually connected in some way to something that, on a smaller scale, they are doing and enjoying doing already. This is where the third modality of awakened doing arises: enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm means there is a deep enjoyment in what you do, plus the added element of a goal or a vision that you work toward. When you add a goal to the enjoyment of what you do, the energy field or vibrational frequency changes. A certain degree of what we might call structural tension is now added to enjoyment, and so it turns into enthusiasm. At the height of creative activity fueled by enthusiasm, there will be enormous intensity and energy behind what you do. You will feel like an arrow that is moving toward the target and enjoying the journey.
To an onlooker, it may appear that you are under stress, but the intensity of enthusiasm has nothing to do with stress. When you want to arrive at your goal more than you want to be doing what you are doing, you become stressed. The balance between enjoyment and structural tension is lost, and the latter has won. When there is stress, it is usually a sign that the ego has returned and you are cutting yourself off from the creative power of the universe. Instead, there's only the force and strain of egoic wanting, and so you have to struggle and work hard to make it. Stress always diminishes both the quality and effectiveness of what you do under its influence. There is also a strong link between stress and negative emotions, such as anxiety and anger. It is toxic to the body and is now becoming recognized as one of the main causes of the so-called degenerative diseases such as cancer and heart disease.
Unlike stress, enthusiasm has a high energy frequency and so resonates with the creative power of the universe. This is why Ralph Waldo Emerson said that nothing great has ever been achieved without enthusiasm. The word enthusiasm comes from ancient Greek, en and theos, meaning God, and the related word enthusiasian means to be possessed by a god. With enthusiasm, you will find that you don't have to do it all by yourself. In fact, there is nothing of significance that you can do by yourself. Sustained enthusiasm brings into existence a wave of creative energy. And all you have to do then is ride the wave.
I love that. I want to ride the wave of enthusiasm. There you go. Enthusiasm brings an enormous empowerment into what you do, so that all those who have not accessed that power would look upon your achievements in awe and may equate them with who you are. You, however, know the truth that Jesus pointed to when he said, "I can of my own self do nothing." Unlike egoic wanting, which creates opposition in direct proportion to the intensity of its wanting, enthusiasm never opposes. It is non-confrontational. Its activity does not create winners and losers. It is based on inclusion, not exclusion of others. It does not need to use and manipulate people because it is the power of creation itself and so does not need to take energy from some secondary source. The ego's wanting always tries to take from something or someone. Enthusiasm gives out of its own abundance. When enthusiasm encounters obstacles in the form of adverse situations or uncooperative people, it never attacks, but walks around them, or by yielding or embracing, turns the opposing energy into a helpful one, the foe into a friend.
Enthusiasm and the ego cannot coexist. One implies the absence of the other. Enthusiasm knows where it's going, but at the same time, it is deeply at one with the present moment, the source of its aliveness, its joy, and its power. Enthusiasm wants nothing because it lacks nothing. It is at one with life, and no matter how dynamic the enthusiasm-inspired activities are, you don't lose yourself in them. And there remains always a still but intensely alive space at the center of the wheel, a core of peace in the midst of activity that is both the source of all and untouched by it all.
Through enthusiasm, you enter into full alignment with the outgoing creative principle of the universe, but without identifying with its creations, that is to say, without ego. Where there is no identification, there is no attachment, one of the great sources of suffering. Once a wave of creative energy has passed, structural tension diminishes again, and joy in what you are doing remains. Nobody can live in enthusiasm all the time. A new wave of creative energy may come later and lead to renewed enthusiasm.
When the return movement toward the dissolution of form sets in, enthusiasm no longer serves you. Enthusiasm belongs to the outgoing cycle of life. It is only through surrender that you can align yourself with the return movement, the journey home.
To sum up, enjoyment of what you are doing, combined with a goal or vision that you work toward, becomes enthusiasm. Even though you have a goal, what you are doing in the present moment needs to remain the focal point of your attention. Otherwise, you will fall out of alignment with universal purpose. Make sure your vision or goal is not an inflated image of yourself and therefore a concealed form of ego, such as wanting to become a movie star, a famous writer, or a wealthy entrepreneur. Also, make sure your goal is not focused on having this or that, such as a mansion by the sea, your own company at $10 million in the bank, an enlarged image of yourself, or a vision of yourself having this or that, are all static goals and therefore don't empower you. Instead, make sure your goals are dynamic. That is to say, point toward an activity that you are engaged in and through which you are connected to other human beings as well as to the whole. Instead of seeing yourself as a famous actor and writer and so on, see yourself inspiring countless people with your work and enriching their lives. Feel how that activity enriches or deepens not only your life, but that of countless others. Feel yourself being an opening through which energy flows from the unmanifested source of all life through you for the benefit of all.
All this implies that your goal or vision is then already a reality within you, on the level of mind and of feeling. Enthusiasm is the power that transfers the mental blueprint into the physical dimension. That is the creative use of the mind, and that is why there is no wanting involved. You cannot manifest what you want. You can only manifest what you already have. You may get what you want through hard work and stress, but that is not the way of the new earth. Jesus gave the key to creative use of mind and to the conscious manifestation of form when he said, "Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours."
So, Manifestation 101 says, see yourself as already being successful, and everything will come to you.
Yes, act as if you already have it.
At the end of this section, he talks about when we are in the receding, then the enthusiasm isn't part of our world anymore. And I don't know if I agree with that.
I just feel like sometimes in life, you're just tired inside. Like you're not lazy, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just like in a season where, maybe your heart needs a break instead of a push. And I feel like when that happens, like trying to, stay hyped or, forcing yourself to keep going by being enthusiastic, if you will, can maybe like make things harder. But I find like when that happens, when I try to like slow down or kind of like loosen my grip on the whole thing and just trusting that it's okay to rest, I just understood that as, sometimes you're tired and that's okay. You're not lazy, you're just in a season where your heart needs a break. And if you try to force yourself, you're not going to see much movement, if you will. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like life isn't asking you to try harder. It's more so just asking you to be more gentle with yourself. And sometimes when you feel like tired inside or you don't really have that energy or enthusiasm, the most healing thing you can do is to kind of like just stop pushing yourself, and you just kind of let yourself rest and trust that you're still okay. And I think when it comes to the journey home, it's not just like coming back to that quiet place where you feel safe, soft, and like yourself again. The journey home is just coming back to that quiet place where you feel safe. I'm only feeling this way because I feel like sometimes it is hard to feel enthusiastic, but it's not because I am lazy. I'm just in a season where I need to be more gentle with myself.
I love that. I agree with that. There are times when you need to pause, you need to stop and reflect and appreciate and be in gratitude for everything that you have and what's going on. And a lot of times, if there's enthusiasm happening and you're on fire for what you're creating or what's next or inspired and all that, that's not the time for reflection and a pause. That's time to let's go, let's do this. So I agree. There's times when I feel it super important to relax, to stop, to meditate, to appreciate your current environment, everything that's going on, and be in gratitude for life itself. We're still here. you know, we're still here. We're still breathing, and life is good overall. It really is. And I do believe that we have our circumstances that challenge us, and that's for good reason. That's something we set up with our soul before we incarnate because we want to grow. We want to learn unconditional love and compassion. And how can you do that if you've, for instance, never been sick? How can you have compassion for someone who's really going through it?
And I think the cool thing about is that isn't enthusiasm isn't something that like you really force. And I feel like when you've truly rested and like let it go, like enthusiasm returns naturally. You can almost kind of just get that spark back again when you are in that rest period. I feel like when you start showing the gratitude and you have more openness in your life, it just kind of comes naturally. Maybe like it goes hand in hand. I don't know.
Well, it kind of goes hand in hand with what he said here, that nobody can live in enthusiasm all the time. A new wave of creative energy may come later and lead to renewed enthusiasm. But like you were just saying, I do believe that sometimes you just need to pause and take a break and gather your energy, your spirit, and the enthusiasm will return when you are rested. It's one of the questions we ask in our coaching class. What do you need to do to have that enthusiasm naturally? And the answer I typically come up with is I need to be rested. I need to have the right nutrition. I need to have quiet time. I need to be able to focus. I don't know if there's a fine line, but there is such a thing as isolating, and I don't agree with isolating as a solution to anything. There's also something called self-care. And I do believe that self-care is extremely important. And today, my morning was filled with self-care. I was taking care of myself. I took my time getting up. I had a lovely cup of coffee, and then I took a shower, and then I did some self-care, and then I got dressed. It just was one of those slow moving mornings. And I needed that and I enjoyed it. And after I was done, I felt great. And I went and started working on a project. So self care is super important. And I guess the thing that you don't want to do is let that turn into isolation, which you're isolating. Typically, you're cutting yourself off from other people because there's some kind of fear that they're going to steal from you, maybe your energy, your spirit, your soul, your money, your possessions, but it's isolating is kind of a fearful place. But self-care is an empowering place. And it sounds like to me what you were talking about was self-care. I really like what he says about the creative process and enthusiasm. Make sure your goals are dynamic. That is, that they point toward an activity that you are engaged in and through which you are connected to other human beings, as well as to the whole. See yourself inspiring countless people with your work and enriching their lives. Feel how that activity enriches or deepens not only your life, but that of countless others. I think this is really important, and it is in alignment with the last section of my book of Spiritual Awakening, which is share your message, share your awakening with others. And pretty much that seems like what he's saying here, inspire countless people. And then he says, enthusiasm is the power that transfers the mental blueprint into the physical dimension. So bring your enthusiasm for what it is that you want to share with the world. Bring that, express it. That is the creative use of your mind. And there is no wanting involved in that. It's simply an abundance of creative energy that's flowing through you that is meant to be shared with the world. I love that. Until next week, I hope you have a good one. See you then. Bye now.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and you'd like to experience a deeper connection, we have two beautiful options. You can work with Gilda as your coach to apply these teachings in your real life, or if you feel called to help others transform, you can become a certified professional coach through Wainwright Global. To learn more, join our Facebook group, The Power of Now, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment with Gilda and Barbara. Send us a direct message, just type the word coach, and we'll reply with the details and help you choose the best fit.